Hello, everyone, and welcome to my I Love Learning podcast today. I am so grateful and so honored to have Donna Star with me today. She is going to introduce herself, but I briefly want to say that I met Donna through a networking group where we connected with others who really have tapped into really what their soul desires and wants, and are thriving and living in that way. She is an executive coach. She's an author. And honestly, she's just an all round beautiful soul. And I'm so glad to have her on my podcast today. So, Donna, thank you for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're passionate about?
Well, you did a better job introducing me than I ever could, but I am Donna Star. I'm a mom. I always like to lead with that first. A good human. I try to be a good human every day. I'm an executive coach, former corporate executive, and I coach corporate people at any stage of their career, and an author for over a year, and I write fairly regularly. So I do all the things.
Yeah, I
And
love
what am
that.
I?
So, mhm.
Yeah, I am passionate about helping people realize that they are the problem and the solution, and that there's always hope for a better life.
Oh,
Always.
that that's interesting. So, as a person, you're always the problem and the solution. Can you talk about that a little bit? What you mean by that?
Well, yeah. So for me, lived in a corporate environment and I did very well in my corporate career. And I don't rip on my corporate career. I don't, because it was very good to
Mhm.
me. I was able to raise, I'm a single mom. I raised my kids on my own. And had a really beautiful career, but it played on the worst aspects of who I am, which is needing outside validation. I didn't believe I was enough. I believed that being hard on myself was the only way that I was going to get ahead. And when
Wow.
I left my corporate career, and became a coach, I hired two coaches from myself, a mindset coach and a business coach. And the mindset coach, Tracy Litt, and maybe one day she'll hear this, really told me that ease, the opposite of being hard on myself, was how I would grow. So the only thing that needed to change was how I felt about myself, my belief system. And instead of being
Mhm.
hard on myself, I'm easy on myself. And my life is like exponentially better. And nothing has
Wow.
changed. Nothing has changed other than how I view myself and my world. Like my circumstances haven't
Wow.
changed. So I don't know if that answers your question about being the problem and the solution, but we are usually the ones getting in our own way.
Absolutely. It's
Actually,
interesting. I've
this
been
is what
reading
gets
a
in our way. Yeah, this.
Absolutely. I've been reading a lot of research on the frontal lobe of our brains, and, really how it's the super center, obviously, of our processing. But the more we ruminate about things negative, it obviously holds us back. But when we can believe and start to really think and focus on those things that are positive and good and things we have control of, it actually helps us move forward. And it was interesting. I posted on my social media this morning the race, the 1500, and I saw an interview from the winners afterward, and the person interviewing them asked, like, how did you win that race? How did you win that? I mean, they came from like well far behind to win the gold and the bronze, and it was incredible. And you know what they said, the winner said, was that, for the long time, nobody believed that the Americans could win that race. Nobody believed it. But in this case, they had to believe it, and they did. The American runners believed that they could run. And what happens in our brain when we actually believe, it changes the structure of
Right.
our brain, the size and the chemicals, and it does help us move forward. So I love the fact that you've experienced this and you have the practical application that you can help other people move forward in this way.
Yeah.
Because it could be a hurdle, and it kind of like goes to the next question about that I always have, like, what was a hurdle that stood in your way of your passion? It sounds like you've kind of cracked it, or at least have opened up what that hurdle is. Can you kind of talk about
Yeah, I
the
can.
hurdle and how it, yeah.
So I read this question because thank you for sending them in advance. I think I'm better off the cuffs because I don't like to sound like whatever. But so I'm just going
Yeah.
to rip a little with you. But Obviously, as a single woman raising two kids, you're going to have lots of hurdles, but those are my hurdles. But, my biggest hurdle was believing in myself. And I wrote a whole book about not believing I was enough. And that is rooted in
Wow.
I just didn't. My older brother was smarter. My middle brother was better looking. They are in industries where they make more money. As great as my parents were, there was a lot of misogyny in my dad didn't know what to do with a girl. Like, even until the day he died, he just actually didn't know what I did for a living. It's not because he didn't love me. He just didn't get the whole thing. He was proud of me. So I could pick out a number of things, but it was my mindset. I needed a reset because I was so hard on myself that I stopped. At the end of my corporate career, I couldn't digest food, salad. I had to go to a doctor because I stopped being able to my body was in such a huge revolt that I needed to do something different. And it still took me a year from the time I went to the doctor to leave my corporate job, because it's scary to not know what's next. That's what we all want to know. We want certainty. And sometimes you just don't know.
Right, right. Absolutely. When you focus on that, like you said, like you focus on the negative and what you don't have control over, it impacts your health, it impacts your mind, and it's like an addiction. You just keep going back to that because it reinforces it. So to break that, you have to think in positive ways. And so how did you overcome that? Like, what was it that helped you overcome all of that?
I think realizing that I couldn't, just to reinforce your frontal lobe comment, I think we have around 60,000 thoughts a day. You probably read this in your course, and about 80 to 90% of them are not positive. So when people live in their head, and I know you treat the trucking industry, you have all that time in your hands. You can ruminate like nobody's business when you're in the open road for 22 hours, or I'm making up the time frame. Living in your head is such a dangerous place. So you really, when you hear those thoughts, those negative, when you're ruminating, once you notice them, you're like, wow, am I really that bad of a human being because I slipped up yesterday? We all hold ourselves to a very different standard. Would you agree with that? Like, if your best friend came to you and said, Gina, I had a terrible day at work, I'm going to be fired, you would say, is that really true? Like, you had a bad day. But to yourself, you would say, I'm so getting fired. You would never give yourself the grace that you gave your friend. And when you can is when your life changes.
Oh, that's a great, great statement, right? I mean, because when you can give yourself a hug, I tell people, pat yourself on the back, like put your arms around yourself and hug yourself. We don't do that enough to care enough about ourselves. So I love that really helped you move forward. What continues to help inspire you every day to really help you want to learn and continue to grow? Like where does that motivation come every day for you?
Well, this is sort of an emotional conversation for me, so hopefully I will not tear up. But I help people change their lives. What a gift that someone trusts me enough to put their life in my hands. When I say life, I'm not a surgeon. I'm not overstating it, but like somebody's coming to me during a very vulnerable time in their life, for the most part, and they trust me, and I take that honor very seriously. So that inspires me every day. And I just, as to anybody listening, I don't wake up every day jumping out of bed. There are days when I beat myself up, but now I just have more tools and I'm able to pull myself out of it a little bit faster because I notice it now. But I'm not immune to that. But what inspires me is the work that I get to do every day.
That's amazing. And I think that's something, when you have something to look forward to in your life, it can help you move past that. And how powerful. How powerful. I love that you do that. And I love that people can reach out to you if you're listening and you need a coach and if you're struggling. with your kind of direction in life, Donna is an awesome resource. So thank you for being there for people. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is there a time that you've like, can you remember? Okay, so it hasn't always been this way for you.
No,
Like you said, you were struggling, you had physical reactions to
I
the
did.
stress in your life. What was the changing point? Was there something that you learned that helped you move forward and had impact on your thinking, or was there something specific you can point to?
Well, there's a couple things. So, like, first of all, I think it's very real that people stay in their jobs, right? Because they're worried about paying their bills and they have financial commitments. So I don't want to smooth that and say, oh, leave your job and start your dreams tomorrow. Like, I'm a pragmatist at the end of the day. So I decided to leave my job after my company sold. I stayed the year. And also my daughter was going to graduate. My youngest was graduating college. So I had a point in time where it made sense for me. And I don't love the whole idea of toxic positivity because we have to be real. We live in the real world. So I just want to say that. And then somebody, when I started work, I don't want to swear, but this was involved a swear. So you'll let me know like what's allowable.
We'll beep you out. We'll beep you.
Okay. So I was working with my mindset coach and she was really amazing, I have to say. And she said, hey, Donna, you're doing great. You have clients, you're getting renewals, you started a group program, you write emails, you're doing great. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. And she's like, I don't think you believe that. Are you waiting for the other shoe to drop? And I said, yes. And then she said to me, and I got this on videotape, and this one sentence changed my life. You are the effing shoe.
Wow.
And it changed me. It's a singular event that changed my life.
Wow. That's impactful.
It really did. I know it sounds like trite. It isn't at all. Because I was like, So when I don't get a client, I don't say to myself, oh my God, you're the worst coach ever. You're never going to get another client, which is sort of how I led my corporate career, which is, I was the worst person ever. If I lost an account or if an employee left, I was always beating myself up. And I thought that's what propelled me forward. But now once she taught me that, I was like, you mean I don't have to live this way? I don't have to beat myself up. I can be proud of myself and not wait for the other shoe to drop. I get to manage the emotion of that high and low. It just clicked for me. I'm the shoe.
I love that.
Yeah. I got it on video because I was like, it changed my life.
Wow. Well, I don't think, it's interesting that there was one moment for you. And I think it's powerful because you can have one sentence, one thought change your life in either positive or negative. So I appreciate that happened to you. Do you, I want to ask you this, because I'm like have the Olympics on my mind in that race, what does winning look like to you? Like I saw that race and I just kept watching it because it was so powerful to me that for them, I wonder really what winning means. And so what does winning look like to you?
That's a good question. So I'm going to interchange the word winning and success a little bit here because I think they mean similar things. At least that's the way I'm interpreting this. And, winning for me is a series of things. I have work to do here, just so you know. And winning means I don't go to bed on Sunday nights worried about Monday mornings. Winning means to me that I can go on vacation and not worry about a fire brewing, or like being on vacation with my family and having to answer emails and hoping there was internet somewhere nearby in case there was a problem. Winning means that I can go to Italy when my best friend got married and not be interviewing somebody in the hotel room. So winning means living life on my terms and realizing the good and bad of that is I'm completely responsible for my financial income. I still miss benefits, by the way. But the doom and gloom, eventually the shoe's going to drop is how I lived in my corporate career. Didn't have to be that way. I know that. That's why I do what I do now. But that is winning to me.
That's powerful. That's definitely powerful. And I challenge everyone that's listening today to think about that question. I think I'm going to introduce it in my podcast because what is winning, and really thinking about what that means in your life. And you you yourself define that. You can define what it means to you, and I think that's the beauty of it.
It's
You know,
hard.
I have.
It
Mhm.
seems simple, right? But it's like there's a society view and there's your personal view. And the misalignment, I think, is what causes a lot of angst in people.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, like what they think they should answer, or how they should answer, or how
Yes.
their environment really wants them to answer, and how if you tap into your soul and your unconscious of who you are as a person, it can reveal really to you what winning is. So I think that is powerful. Um, I want to ask you a question because I have a lot of people that listen to the podcast, and this is really the reason why I created this Mind of a Champion podcast, is because there are people who are struggling.
Mm.
You know, people who have lost hope, people who, like you said, are beating themselves up every day, who are probably listening maybe in the car going home thinking something happened at work and they just can't get it out of their mind, and they've lost their passion. They've lost their passion for learning. They've lost their
Yeah.
passion for growth in life. Advice would you give them? What kind of advice would you have?
So can I give you, like, I read this question and I really wanted to use this. That's a very layered question. So can I just tell you how I
Mm-hmm.
might coach around that? So I'm coaching this mid-career woman who's delightful. Like, I just want to hug her. And I am going to meet her in person this week. And she came to me because she wanted to leave her job,
Mm-hmm.
and which is not uncommon. She's still working. We've worked together. We've had 5 sessions now. And every week we work on how she can show up differently. She works for a very difficult person. She's dealing with the person
Mm-hmm.
differently now. She's showing up differently. She's using her voice. She's telling
Mm-hmm.
her boss what she needs and the people that aren't delivering at the level. So I checked in with her because we're almost at the halfway point, and I said, "Do you still want to look for a job?" And she said, "No, I want to see this through." So my
Mm-hmm.
job as a coach is not necessarily not to take you at face value, but it is to poke underneath to see if there's more going on. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when people come to me in a specific situation, of course you want to take people at face value, but we all have blind spots. In just 5
Mm-hmm.
sessions, she's a new person. She feels more in control of her life. She has hope. So
Wow.
and that's not magic. That's her ability, my ability to ask the right questions, and her ability
Mm-hmm.
to dig deep and find some answers within her. I
Mm-hmm.
think bailing, I left my job several times and came back to the same company because I didn't have the capacity to make the changes I needed to make. It wasn't until I left corporate that I realized, oh, it didn't have to be this way. So the other reason I really like coaching for a hope perspective is because nothing really has to change. I see the comment from Jonathan here um, about training. There's some things out of your control and there are some things in your control. And we just have to figure out which is which. I don't want to be trite about the
Absolutely.
response, but that might be out of Jonathan's control, the training. But there
Mm-hmm.
are other things that might be in his control.
Right. Absolutely. You know, every human has the struggle of trying to figure out what is truth to them, and I think the thing is, maybe the staff and, Jonathan can share this, but maybe they don't have access. Like, we have a learning platform that has a lot of possibility, but not every company has the capacity or interest to utilize it, and I think that maybe if a person doesn't have access or doesn't seek access, and I think that's Donna and her story. The person has to seek the access or seek their understanding. It really starts with that person. So I think that definitely everyone has within their control how they think. They may not have access to the resource that they need, but certainly they can seek out what they need. Donna, how would people reach out to you? I want you to end our show with any final thoughts or comments that you have. and tell everyone where they can reach you and find your great book and resources. And I'll post it after too for everyone.
Thanks. My final thought is I want to say thank you. It was really a joy to be with you today. And I loved your questions and just the fluid nature of our conversation. So thank you for doing what you do to help your target audience, So I think we need more of that. And my final thought on, I don't ever want to come across like I think there's a simple answer to everything, because I don't. But do I think that we as humans have the capacity to change? I do. And if we change, hope is always possible. So that is what I would say about that. And
Awesome.
even I won't bring up any politics, but I just feel like there's like now you see some renewed energy in, some of the party stuff going on. Sometimes it's just a simple change and it can change everything. So I believe in that. And to reach me, I have D-Star Consultants website. I'm active on LinkedIn under Donna Star as an executive coach, and very active on Facebook and Instagram. So I would love to, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Donna, so much for being on my podcast and sharing your love for helping people. I am overwhelmed with, this idea that you wake up every day with the inspiration to connect and care for others. So I appreciate you coming on. And if anyone wants to reach out to Donna, all her information will be in the stream. And thank you so much for joining me.